as indicated by the heading of this episode, where the bleep is Atlantis?
The internet, by and large, thinks that the Richat structure is by far the most likely location.
The Richat structure is the closest fit, but it's not a perfect fit. But before we get into that, let's look at where the concept of the Richat structure being Atlantis came from. Well, not necessarily came from, because I think there's been a few theories going on about it. But the first time I heard about it was from a channel called Bright Insight. That's Jimmy Corsetti's channel. And so I'd like to start by using some clips from Jimmy regarding what this is all about, just to give an introduction.
First of all, it was said to be made up of concentric circles, specifically 3 of water and 2 of land, which matches the Richat. It was said to have an opening to the sea at the south, which matches the Richat. It was said to be made up of red, black, and white color stones, which is another stunning similarity in that entire region around the Richat. It was said to have mountains to the north with a river coming from the mountains, and it just so happens that there's mountains in northern Africa, just north of the Richat structure in the modern-day country of Morocco, called the Atlas Mountains. Not only that, it was said to have an abundance of elephants, which of course were known to have been in the Western Sahara. It was also said to have an abundance of gold, and there's massive gold deposits in that entire region. So, what are the odds of all of that?
My main reason for my leaning towards the Richat structure is the distances from other locations that are known, that I am confident where they are. So I'll just touch on the issues with the Richat structure. So the first was, I cannot see on Google Maps or anywhere a hill which is towards the ocean side on the left. The second point is the overall size. The Richat structure is still a bit bigger than my estimates. The third point is the lack of waterways. And I know that if I could see a map of what waterways were like 30,000 years ago, I'd be able to say, yes, it's it, or no, it isn't. But I don't have any way of getting a map of waterways from that era. So there are no landmarks for me to measure against. And without them, that makes it just so difficult. My fourth point is the waterfall. Now, this is quite a big landmark. And I've searched where I think where a waterfall might have been if the Richat structure was the one, and I can't see anywhere that might have been a decent sized waterfall. Point number 5. Now this is one that can make or break the Richat structure for me, because after the Great Deluge, I was part of a team sent to rescue people that were trapped underground in, what we would call bunkers. Anyway, the whole place was covered in mud and water and stuff like that, and so we had to actually build very quickly, I might add, an area, a square area with large blocks, an area which we could then pump all the water and the mud out of, and then we could get access to doing a rescue of these people, which we did, by the way. We managed to do that very successfully, and that was another thing that I should really do a whole episode on, because there's a heap that I can tell you about that rescue. But the most important part from the perspective of, is this Atlantis, is if we can find on the Richat structure an area where there are some very large blocks. They wouldn't have been destroyed in the deluge because we put them there after the deluge, and it is a square, and we cut sandstone, very, very large blocks of sandstone, and made about a 10 meter by 10 meter construction. There were no doorway accesses or anything because we wanted to make it so that we could pump out the water and the mud. I would say it should still be there in some form, even if it's covered in a bit of sand and stuff. It should still be there. And that would be not only the evidence that this was in fact Tantal and Atlantis, it would also be an indication of where the access was through to the tunnels and the underground structure. So that would be something pretty major. If we could find that, it would be a big bonus. On the blocks, they were about 2, maybe 3 meters high, so they weren't insignificant. They should stand out.